Grab your straw hat, raise your skeleton flag, call your crew, and prepare for a perilous journey across the high seas. This is the great age of pirates. Or is it? For starters, we don't call it the great age of pirates, but the golden age of piracy. And no, we don't have captains who turn into rubbermen after eating a devil fruit. But don't be disappointed yet, because the real adventures in the world of pirates are fundamentally fascinating. Children's stories often depict pirates as evil figures wearing eye patches and sharp hooks for hands. However, the true story of the golden age of piracy is less like Peter Pan and more like what the anime One Piece depicts. That's why I put it in the intro, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, now that you know the outline, I want you to imagine yourself back as a real pirate crew member. Let's discuss the context. The year is around the 1650s. Western nations are fiercely competitive. European geopolitics and economy are heating up. White people are suddenly competing to control strategic trade routes. One of the most alluring? The Caribbean. Hold on, Jack Sparrow. You might get the reference, but not the life aboard the ship. Dealing with Europeans usually brings new problems, and that's exactly what happened. You see, for the sake of this competition, the Europeans needed a large crew. Meanwhile, the government's own manpower was limited. What did they do? They recruited privateers, private sailors. You might have been one of them. You were a captain who joined the Royal Military to attack enemy ships. Cool, right? Then came the Treaty of Utrecht. Somehow, that big war ended. You, who had previously borne arms and stood proudly in the government's ranks, are now unemployed. You return to being a private sailor, but no one is paying you for any expedition anymore. Even if you could still hang out with the Royal Marine ranks, your fate might be equally miserable. Low wages, absolutely pitiful food rations, and whippings that would be agonizing for both your body and the mental state of your sailors. Now you have no money. You, a sailor with high prestige, now need something to survive. So you take the only path you can, becoming a baddie on the sea. If you're lucky, the situation might turn around, and those very military members might mutiny and join you as shipmates. Congratulations again, you are officially a pirate. It's time to sail and search for treasure on remote islands. But before reaching any island, you'd better understand the rather radical rules and etiquette aboard the ship. You might have heard the Royal Marine implemented an authoritarian hierarchy. You know, generals and so on. Under the skeleton flag, it's not like that. You might be shocked, but compared to the Marine, your pirate crew has a more democratic system. There is something called the Code of Conduct. This code regulates your life aboard the ship. The entire crew agrees, and so do you. When you find the treasure you seek, the distribution must be fair. Even your captain won't be too greedy. He will only take 1.5 shares more than an ordinary crew member. But of course, justice aboard the ship is accompanied by a strict work routine. No day without muscle work. No day off for you, the subordinate. You must clean the ship's hull, mend torn sails, and fix broken ropes. If you're lucky, you might get a double job as a horizon lookout, ready to shout if you spot land. At first glance, activities aboard the ship sound exciting and morale-boosting. But you are a pirate, not a Boy Scout. There is a significant difference between camping by a bonfire and sailing on the endless ocean. Of course, we are talking about food. The journey across the sea does not take a short time. For that, you and your crew definitely need a large supply of food. Having a cook on board seems nice, but on that savage ocean, just having food that lasts is already a meal from heaven. Bringing bread onto the ship is difficult, as mold will devour the bread before you manage to touch it. The substitute? Hardtack. Not heart attack, hardtack. The condiment is meat preserved with salt. That's some delicacy on your long journey in the vast ocean. You might miss your family, but what can you do? The food at home is not much different from your current suffering. It's not like you can eat soup or a meat sandwich in your hometown. The hardtack and salted meat in your hand are proof that you have chosen a hard path in life. What about drinking water? Surely you don't want to drink seawater because it can give you diarrhea until you die. In the middle of an ocean filled only with salt water, clean water is a luxury for your crew. Showering is just a dream if you don't find land soon. After a hard day's work, rum is a cure for fatigue, right? Just make sure you don't drink too much. You might cause chaos on the ship, or even fall into the sea and get eaten by hungry sharks. Unfortunately, your pirate diet also comes with high risks. Scurvy infects your crew due to a lack of vitamin C. What do you expect from a piece of dry biscuit and salted meat that is your energy source for months? You might feel honored to die in a duel or battle, but sadly, fate often says you must die on the ship due to a miserable disease. In an era where science still hasn't reached many people, you, a pirate who often believes in sea legends, might think that the disease afflicting you is a curse for offending Davy Jones. Want a fun fact? You have insurance as a pirate. If you lose one of your limbs, fair compensation awaits. After all, your journey is full of risks, including losing a leg or an eye. Yes, the pirates with wooden legs or hook hands in the movies are not entirely false. And surprise, surprise, your captain is also a regular human who is not immune to illness. So there is a possibility that he dies and must be replaced by another crew member. That could be you. Interestingly, the majority of the crew agrees after a vote. Yep, democracy. Not like the Hollywood depiction where you are a cruel barbarian. But you'd better not be arrogant and lead well, because that position is a sign that the crew trusts you. You must be firm, authoritative, courageous, and at the same time fair to every living being on your ship. Because if you show the attitude of a coward, or, conversely, act as if you were a god on the ship, your position can be revoked right there and then. Again, your crew uses democracy to overthrow you. What about the ordinary crew? What punishment awaits if the code of conduct is violated? Not execution. Usually, the whipping sounds light, because if the violation is severe enough, the member might end up being marooned on a deserted island. Let him face his own fate in the wild. But isn't the pirate story always filled with battles against the marine and tyrannical kingdoms? Yes, that's true. Unfortunately, that also happens towards the end of the golden age of piracy. Those white men consider you a threat that will disrupt their colonization. That's why King George I offered the king's pardon, an amnesty for anyone who stopped being a pirate. It sounds wise, but it also offends your pride. Some took it, and others decided to rebel. The unhappy king finally ordered the hunt for all those who refused, including you, and passed a death sentence on all remaining pirates. The golden age of piracy ended. You can only laugh looking at the crowd watching your execution, because you know you were not an invader of any land. Your skeleton flag may stop waving, but you know your story ends with pride as an ocean explorer, forever stored in your heart.